Today is November the 2nd, 2023. My name is Jasmine, and this is my journal entry. Nothing much has been happening lately. Work is working. Work is working. Um, I'm trying to work on, I'm not going to say controlling how I respond to stressors outside of myself. Like, when stressful things happen at work or stressful things happen in the home. Because those are just things that we can't control. Things happen. So, how do you control these things that happen around you? And the thing is that you can't always control them, but you can control how you respond to them. And even though I've worked on myself very hard over the past 8 or 9, 7, 8 years, there are still some things that get up under my skin, especially when it comes to my children. And also, there's one person I work with that I just don't like. This lady, I'm not going to say I don't, I don't like her. I'm not going to lie to y'all. I just don't. And she's messy, she's gossipy, and she just gets up under my skin. But lately, I have been, I've made the effort to not allow her to do that. So I was on the phone with my friend the other day, and we were talking about resolving conflicts in relationships and friendships. Because conflict is something that we can't avoid. And also, having conflicts are healthy. So, what she was saying that stuck out to me is she said, I'm so black and white. Sometimes I do not know how to handle or to have healthy conflict. She said, either I'm in or I'm out. I don't operate well in the gray. The thing is that with people, we're so complex and we're so layered when it comes to emotions and feelings and conflict. It's often in the gray. It's not often, to me, honestly, from experience, it's not often, it's like, this is right and this is wrong, this is that and this is that. Though you may feel that way when you're arguing, but the fact of the matter is, it's so much in between. It makes me think of the universal law that all truths are but half truths. And also, what I see out of my eyes, it's not the same that the other person sees out of their eyes. So the perception is different. So what may be fact or true to me may not be fact or true to them, or vice versa. And I think one of the keys to having and resolving healthy conflict is to understand that it's okay to agree to disagree. The most important thing that I've learned with arguing in the past is that things got worse when my partner or my best friend or my boss or whoever else I was talking to with the issue, because these are all relationships, or my relationship with my children, is when they don't feel like their perception is validated. They feel like the worst thing that you can do is make a person feel stupid for what they're feeling or what they're saying or their point of view. That's just like that's one of the worst things that you can do when you're trying to solve a conflict, is to belittle someone. So the first thing that I did was I did some research. I read several articles um from different places, and I just took some notes, and I wanted to share them all with you guys. But the first thing I wanted to talk about, or I wanted to speak on, is, how do you know if you're in a healthy enough situation? Because the health of your relationship can determine how you handle conflict. And look, conflict can be hard, especially when emotions are involved. So this is not like a one day thing. Like, I still have my moments where, shit, I'm gonna be honest with y'all. Yesterday, I just cussed somebody out. I cussed my son out. I ain't gonna hold y'all. He's an adult child, so don't judge me. But we still have our moments. But I found this article, and it talked about 10 signs of a healthy relationship and 10 signs of an unhealthy relationship. And I think that we could use this in our friendships too. Um, the first sign of, let's start with the unhealthy facts and then we'll go to the healthy. The first sign of an unhealthy relationship is intensity. And when they say intensity, they mean like when things are, moving very fast. Now, I had to read a little deeper into that because, I have a connection that, it is moving fairly quickly. But I also realized is that it's moving at a comfortable pace. And the article stated intensity when it's not moving at a comfortable pace, which means that somebody is putting pressure on somebody else to move the connection faster than what is going. But if you're in a connection that's kind of naturally flowing quickly, that's different than something that feels forced. One of the conversations I always have with my partner is I'm not rushing you. Take your time. There's no pressure over here. Move how you feel that you should move. And I decided to have patience in that area. Another one is possessiveness, which we all know what that means. Somebody think they own you. Manipulation. And manipulation can show in many forms. It's this person manipulating you into giving them what they want. How are they handling you? Isolation. Isolation is like when they're trying to isolate you from your friends. They don't want you hanging with your friends. They don't want you around your family. They don't want you around anybody else. They're trying to stop all that. That's isolation. Sabotage is when they purposely do things to sabotage the connection. And that could be hurtful, belittling. I think I talk to a lot of females like that, when they're in a relationship with the male, and the male might say, you ain't gonna, and females do that a lot. Females, we do that. You feel like you the one, you the prize, and you tell him that if he leave you, he ain't gonna find no better, or he'll never do better. You know what I mean? Like you it. And I feel like it's kind of belittling. That's just telling him that he's not good enough, and you're his savior, and you saved him. It's kind of borderline. I mean, it's narcissism at its best. But females do that all the time, and males do it too. Like, all the other men out there, all they want to do is fuck you. I'm the only one that really wants you. Like, to me, that's just not right. Guilting, making a person feel guilty for their emotions or feeling how they feel. Have you ever expressed yourself emotionally to somebody and they made you feel guilty for feeling the way you feel? Um, Volatility, deflecting responsibility, and betrayal. Those are the 10 unhealthy facts. Healthy facts. Healthy characteristics or signs of a healthy relationship. The first one is moving at a comfortable pace. A pace that's comfortable for the both of you. Second one is trust. Do you trust this person? Do you feel safe enough to talk to this person about anything, have a conversation about anything without them, shutting you down, belittling you? Um, can you be honest with this person? Do you feel like they're honest with you? Um, Independence. Even though you two are together, do you two still have a sense of independence? Do you respect that this person has a separate life and separate relationships, like friendships and family and stuff outside of you? And do they respect the fact that you have yours? Respect. Do you speak to each other in high regard? You know, there are a lot of people out there, they talk negatively about their partners or spouses around other people. That's not being respectful. Equality, kindness, taking responsibility and ownership for your part in whatever issues that you guys have. Having healthy conflict, which we're about to talk about. And 10, is it fun? Now look, you're going to have bad days and you're going to have rough times. It's no secret that I told you that I spent a lot of years with someone, and there were some terrible There were some bad times, but there are also great times too. The question is, do the good times outweigh the bad times? That's the question. So, what is healthy conflict? What does it look like? What does it look like? The first thing is to be respectful and gentle. Don't yell at each other, don't violate each other, don't call each other names. You can have a conflict or an issue without being disrespectful. You know. Also, an important thing with healthy conflict is staying in the present. Leave the past in the past. So if your spouse come to you and they mad at you about something, don't bring up something they did 2 months ago. Be like, well, I didn't say nothing. Have you ever, and I know we've all been guilty of it when they come to you and be like, Jazz, I got a problem when you be leaving your dirt. I'm looking at some dirty dishes. I need to wash. Leaving your dirty dishes in the room. And I'd be like, well, I remember a month ago when you refused to clean the dishes for a whole month. You're just bringing up the past instead of staying present in the moment. I know that's a petty example, but staying present in the moment. Focus on the issue that's directly that you're talking about. Um, Use I statements instead of saying you or blaming. And this was a good one to me because I feel like oftentimes we do it. You made me do this. You make me do this. You know what I mean? When a good way to say it is that, like, I feel like this when this happens. You know what I mean? Or when we had this conversation about this, I felt this. And what you're doing is that you're not blaming that person for how you're responding emotionally, but you're expressing to this person that whatever action took place triggered you to feel this way. So it's not necessarily them that caused the issue, but it's the action within itself. And number four, I'm going to say this till my face turns blue. It is okay to agree to disagree. There does not have to be a winner or loser in every argument. It's okay to have a difference of opinions. It's okay to think. It's okay to think differently. It's okay. You're not going to agree on everything. You know what I mean? It is perfectly fine. I think the most important thing that you can do is prioritize communication and respect and work diligently towards a resolution. And the resolution may just be to put it down or to walk away from it. Or the resolution can definitely be to compromise. Definitely compromise. How can you resolve these conflicts in a healthy way? How can you make a conscious effort to not resort to fighting? And I'm not saying that, things don't happen and, you won't get to a point to where y'all might, dig in each other's skin. But there are ways that you can. One thing I can say is if you're in a relationship where y'all keep fighting over the same thing over and over and over again, try to pinpoint the trigger. Because oftentimes when you keep fighting over the same things over and over again, there has to be a trigger that keeps triggering it. And once you figure out the trigger, you could come up with a resolution. And honestly, sometimes the trigger to repetitive fights have nothing to do with either one of you, but deeper issues that you need to work on within yourself. It really do. I have a friend right now. She's having repetitive arguments over the phone, and I think her triggers when it comes to those phone calls are deeper than this person not answering the phone every single time that they call. It's deeper than that. So sometimes pinpointing that trigger, I think for her, pinpointing that trigger can help her come to a resolution on how she can deal with the way that she feels when her partner doesn't answer his phone. This is odd, but it's very important. Schedule a time for conflict. Set aside time to discuss things. I had a friend who's been married for many years, and I look up to their marriage, and they have conflict just like everybody else, but they have this thing called table talk. And if you're listening, I need you to write this book. You know what I'm saying? This book about how they solve their conflicts is very structured. They don't fight or get belligerent or yell in front of the children or belittle each other or disrespect each other. They find time to sit down and talk. And the key is not to get up until it's resolved, but sometimes they have to come back to it over and over again. But they have a designated place and a designated time and a designated bottle of wine where they sit down and they talk about their issues. And sometimes those talks get ugly. Sometimes those talks are painful, but they are committed to loving each other and working through those conflicts. And I love that about their marriage. There were days where she's come to work in tears, like, oh my gosh, this is just too much. And I got to talk to him again tonight. And I think the longest run I've seen her do it. They were at the table every night for 3 weeks, resolving a conflict. But baby, they got through it. They got through it. I think the discussions got so bad, divorce was even on the table. But I remember sitting in her office with her and we were praying. We were talking about it. And she was just like, at the end of us talking, she was like, the grand scheme of things is that even though we have a problem that we need to solve, I love my husband more than any problem that we can ever have. And they work through it. So I'm not saying these facts like they be easy, because I just watched somebody try to go through a conflict and it took a month. Okay. But what's a month worth of conflict over 10 years worth of love? Like what is it? What's that little bit of time? You know what I'm saying? Or over 10 years ahead of time or 20 years ago. You know what I mean? I think sometimes when we're in a moment and we're angry, we're not looking at the bigger picture. Um, that takes me back to what I just said. Step away from number four, number three, step away. Sometimes if you're talking and things, you start to feel too emotional or things start to feel real bad, step away. You know, um, I had an argument with my son yesterday, and honestly, even though what he did was wrong, and even though he made excuses, no, no, I didn't say he was wrong. I said what he did was wrong. But he he stepped away. He walked out, and even though I was mad because he walked out, and I was livid, but had he not walked away and said, I'm not about to argue with you right now, and left, it probably would have escalated even more, because I saw red. So I think at that moment my child was the more mature person um, in this situation. Um, I think that my issue is the accountability part. Sometimes people can take accountability without take and not take accountability at the same time. So what he does is two things I mentioned. He took the accountability and said, I should not have done this, but you did this. You see what I mean? You did this. So instead of focusing on the issue that we were talking about, the problem we were trying to resolve, he brings up stuff that I do or stuff that I did or stuff that I've done in the past. You know what I'm saying? Versus sticking to the subject at hand. So right now I'm in the middle of resolving conflict with my son, and we're going on day two, and it's not over yet. So, but I think today I'm a lot more level headed than I was yesterday. Make requests instead of complaints. If it's something as simple as um, your spouse don't ever clean the dishes after dinner, and you always do, instead of saying, "Oh my God, you never clean the dishes after dinner," say, "Hey baby, do you mind cleaning the dishes after dinner today?" Or take turns. That's a petty. That's like kind of low compared to major arguments that people have, but that's a better way to do it instead of complaining all the time. Request it. This is an important one. Actively listen. Listen to what they're saying. Ask for clarification. Do not make assumptions. People that make assumptions, that's a pet peeve of mine. Years ago, not years ago, it was fairly recent. I used to go on dates with someone a lot, and they made a lot of assumptions. And I hated that. Like, if I made a post on my page, they assumed it was about them, or they assumed that I had this or that. And number one, don't assume that the person that you're dealing with is reading your mind and they know what's going on through your mind or how you feel. Don't assume anything. And don't assume they're making a certain point without clarifying that the point is being made. A lot of times we listen to respond. We don't listen to understand what they're saying or to try to understand our partner. And that's an issue that, I've had in the past and I still struggle with from time to time is if I want to get back or say something, I'm fine. I'm gonna say what I said, instead of actually actively listening to the point that my partner is trying to make. But that is a lesson that I've had to learn over the years. I remember my ex used to always tell me, like, man, Jess, you don't listen. And I'd be like, I'm listening to you. He'd be like, man, you don't listen. But then I realized I wasn't listening because what he taught me to do is after he would say what he would say, and we would go back and forth, he would ask me to recall what he said, and I wouldn't recall it correctly. It'd be like holes in it or it wouldn't be right. And that's because I wasn't listening. So what I've learned to do now is control my anger, control my temper, listen to what they are saying, ask for clarity if I need it. I'll even repeat back. So what you're saying is this. Please help me to understand, and I do that so that I can respond appropriately. Learn the right way to apologize to your partner. Look y'all. Apologies look different to everyone. Apologies look certain people, it depends. Like for certain people, I'm sorry isn't enough. So know your partner, know your friend. Know how they need apologies. Like my best friend, I know her very well. You just can't apologize to her. Um, she is very big on words and action. So if you apologize to her and tell her that you're going to change a certain behavior, she's going to hold you accountable to that changed behavior. But then I got another friend. That's all she want to hear is, I apologize. So what I did was I took a moment to look at the five apology languages. Just like we have love languages like act of services and stuff like that, we have apology languages too. We also have argument styles of arguments or argumentative languages too. I think I'm gonna talk about those another time. I'm like hooked on this stuff. I've been reading for like days now and writing down and taking notes, and kind of reflecting on myself. But the five apology styles, and there's more than these five, but these are the five main ones. The first one is expressing regret. So expressing regret is just simply saying, I'm sorry. I apologize. My apologies. The second one is accepting responsibility. And accepting responsibility is more of saying, hey, it was my fault. I should not have done that. Or, just admitting you're wrong. Like, I take full responsibility for the part that I played in this situation. The third one is making restitution, finding a way to correct the situation. As far as the way that I apologize, this is most definitely me finding a way to correct a situation. If I do something where I feel like I'm wrong, I'm going to find a way to fix it. You know, like the other night, me and my partner went to a Halloween party, and this is minor. We went to a. It's not minor, but it is. We went to a Halloween party, and he handed me his phone to put it in my purse, and I stuck my phone and his phone in my purse, but I didn't stick it in the right sleeve in my purse. So when I got out of the car, both of our phones fell out of my purse. My phone fell inside of the car, but his phone fell face down on the ground. Now, mind you, I don't know why, but I was very close to the ground. Like my knee was bent because I was getting out of the car. My purse is a long strap purse that hangs over to my side. His phone probably fell probably maybe 3 to 5 feet. And when I say that, it shattered. Like it shattered. Oh my God, that phone is just not usable. It's not workable. It's just over. Mind you, he uses the phone to navigate back here. So he's been stuck here with me. Happily, I hope. But he's been stuck here with me with a broken phone. So I apologize to him deeply because I felt so bad. What I am happy was I could tell he was upset, not by his actions because he didn't show any anger towards me. I think it's because I'm naturally intuitive. I could tell that he was kind of bothered at the fact that his phone was broke. Not bothered, but annoyed by it. And when I asked him, I was like, "Are you upset?" He said, "Oh, a little." He said, "Very little." But I do appreciate the fact that he did not yell at me. He wasn't disrespectful. He didn't belittle me. He didn't make me feel bad. He didn't do any of that. We continued our night, but my apology style was to make restitution to find a way to correct it. Because I know that in today's day and age, like we need our phones. So I've been finding resolutions all week until we can get on another phone, on how we can resolve it. So even if it was putting an app on his phone to where he could still he had another phone he don't use. We put an app on there so he could make phone calls. I also left my second phone here just in case he needed to make phone calls so he can use the second phone until we can get him another phone. Finding a number to the company that he got his other phone from so he can get it replaced. Just finding ways to resolve it. So making restitution is usually the way that I apologize because if I feel like I'm wrong, I always want to make something right. The fourth one is genuinely repenting. And that means a complete change in behavior or solving the problem. Now, the way I want to be apologized to, it depends on the severity of it. I can go with all five of them. The fifth one is requesting forgiveness. And that is just giving the other person time to process what they're going through before, assuming that things are normal. Giving the person time to grieve or get over whatever hurt that was caused, especially if you're hurt deeply. So me, depending on the severity of what's going on, um, would be the severity of the apology that I would need, you know. And when I think of my relationship, I don't think we never really gotten past one like a my bad, I apologize. I think the only time that I really felt like we had to come up with a way to solve a problem was sometimes we'll have breaks in communication because I think both of us we don't communicate the best. And but we always find, resolutions to that. So, changing behavior, finding ways to rectify the problem, just talking about things, just finding different ways to communicate more efficiently is the way you solve it. Anyhow, where was I at? I got lost in my thoughts, y'all. Okay. Now, how can you use conflict this is my last point. How can you use conflict to strengthen your relationship? And I know this sounds crazy because people think that having conflict can cause a breakdown in relationship or cause issues, and it can. But there are also ways that it can strengthen your relationship because don't forget that conflict is a way of shedding light on things that need to be worked on. That's all it is. They're not necessarily a bad thing. The first thing is develop a healthy point of view and acknowledge that, like I said, having conflict is a natural part of life and relationships. You're going to have conflict. It's natural. You're going to be tested. I always say Earth is a big old school. We hear schooling. Adopt a proactive mindset. Work through your conflict. Don't run from it. Don't avoid issues. If there's an issue in your relationship, sit down, talk about it, and face it. Don't avoid it. Don't hold it in. Don't run from it. I'm proactive to the point to where, periodically, at least weekly, I'll ask him, like, is everything okay? Is there something I need to work on? Is there something I upset you about? And that just kind of gives him the floor to be honest so that we can work through them. And I'm starting to do it with my children too, because I find it very effective. My 21-year-old daughter, she always got a problem with me. But we talk about it. My best friend, I did it with her the other day, and she just asked, she said that she no, it wasn't my best friend, it was another friend. I did it with her, and she just said she wanted me to make more time for her, which that's something that I struggle with overall. Number three, take ownership. Both parties should own their own part in whatever the issue is. Like, what part do you take in it? And it takes two to have conflict, so it's never really just all one person. So, what part do both of y'all play in it? Number four, I like this one. Realize that the past is showing up in the present for a reason. A lot of the times, even though we try to avoid it, past relationships show up in current relationships. And it definitely shows an opportunity to heal old wounds and love ourselves more fully. I believe that resolving conflicts in a healthy way is an act of self-care. It's an act of self-love, and it also gives us the opportunity to heal ourselves, especially if you resolve them appropriately. Number five, which is one of my favorite, understand the lesson. Lessons exist within all conflicts if we are open to seeing them. So basically, there's a lesson in every conflict. What lesson can you take from this argument? What lesson or thing about yourself can you take from that? And it's funny because I have a friend right now, and we talk very openly about her relationship, and there's a lot of conflict. And I always encourage her to look back within herself because, it's a lot of blaming. So I always ask her, like, what part do you play in this? How can you solve it? And how are you sitting here upset and screaming, yelling, and crying about it going to change what the situation is right now? Sometimes, if you want to change how something is working, change how you're approaching what is working. Um, Even if it means removing yourself from the situation or walking away, we tend to repeat conflict patterns until we get the lesson. And y'all, sometimes the lesson is just walking away. The lesson is, sometimes the lesson is learning when to walk away. And y'all, listen, sometimes walking away or cutting somebody off because something isn't working, or deciding to choose yourself, is a healthy resolution to any conflict. I dated someone in the past where, I mean, it was an argument every day. Every day this person had a problem with something I did. If I chewed the wrong way, it was an argument. And I'm not talking about like little bitty misunderstandings or conflicts. I'm talking about this person goes into full rage and anger. And I remember sitting him down and talking to him, and I decided that I was going to walk away from this connection. And he couldn't understand why, because he just thought that our connection was great, and it was. I mean, when we vibed. We talked a lot. We had a lot in common. We liked a lot of the same things, but at the end of the day, I felt like our conflict resolution wasn't healthy for neither me or him. And I felt like something within me triggered some characteristics, some things within him that he still needed to heal from. And ultimately, I realized that it wasn't healthy for me. So as an act of self-love, I decided to walk away. Anyhow, that is the end of this segment. Um, for those that are in relationships, there are several ways that you can get through hard times. And, a lot of people are having them right now. people will have problems. I don't know what's up with these people where they're saying at the first sight that you have problems, you're supposed to walk away. You don't have to. People have, I remember my teacher told me, I took his mentorship program and I was like, I want to manifest a relationship. And the first thing he said to me was, Jasmine, everybody has problems. Everybody has issues. Things can get quote unquote bad. Like everybody has problems. And when he told me that, that stuck with me because I tend to be, at one point in my life, I was a runner. Every time a problem showed, I was out because I struggled with resolving conflict. I was afraid of my own emotions. And that's because I had chose to be with people who didn't honor them. But when I learned how to honor my own emotions, whether other people honored them or not didn't matter, but you're going to respect them. I hope everything stays well with you guys. Don't forget, love yourselves daily, 11 times in the morning. Get in that mirror and tell yourself you love yourself. 11 times at night. Tell yourself you love yourself. Hug yourself. Take care of yourself. Do some self-care things. Take yourself to a movie. Take yourself to dinner. Curl up with yourself. You know, cut that motherfucker off. If they abusing you or mistreating you, that's an act of self-love. Walk away from that female that's belittling you and making you feel like you less of a man or emasculating you. That's an act of self-love. Choose you. Peace.